The HOA reserve fund statement showed a balance of $847,000, but the bank records I found in Matthew Hall's recycling bin told a different story. I'm Charles Garcia, 38, Security Coordinator for Hennepin County's municipal facilities. I've lived in Golden Meadows District in Greystone, Minnesota for 6 years. I know how to spot irregularities in financial documentation. This wasn't a clerical error. The morning started like any other Tuesday in October. I was reviewing our quarterly HOA financial reports over coffee when I noticed the discrepancy. Our reserve fund, meant for major repairs and emergency expenses, showed consistent monthly deposits of $12,400. The problem was the withdrawal pattern. Small amounts, always under $5,000, always approved by a single board signature. Matthew Hall lived 3 houses down. Every morning at 6:15 a.m. he walked his 5 dogs past my kitchen window. Golden Retriever, 2 Labs, a Beagle, and some mixed breed that looked part Shepherd. Same route. Same timing. Same friendly wave when he saw me through the glass. He'd been our HOA treasurer for 4 years. I pulled up the Minnesota Common Interest Ownership Act guidelines on my laptop. Section 515B.3 to 116 requires dual authorization for any withdrawal exceeding $2,500 from reserve accounts. Every single withdrawal I was looking at violated state law. The bank statements in his recycling showed wire transfers to an account ending in 7,439. The HOA's official account ended in 2,847. I photographed everything with my phone before the garbage truck arrived. My hands were steady, but my pulse wasn't. I'd trusted this man. We'd discussed neighborhood security protocols. He'd helped me install motion sensors around the community mailboxes after a series of thefts last spring. He knew I worked in municipal security. He knew I understood financial oversight procedures. The transfers dated back 18 months, always the same amount, always the same day of the month, always Matthew's signature on the authorization forms. I called Greystone City Hall and requested copies of all HOA financial filings for Golden Meadows. The clerk, Aurora Hall, said they'd be ready by Thursday. I scheduled time off work to review them personally. That afternoon, I watched Matthew walk his dogs again. He stopped to chat with Aurora Hall from the corner house about her new fence installation. Normal conversation. Normal gestures. Nothing in his demeanor suggested he was systematically draining our community's emergency fund. But the numbers didn't lie. Someone had been stealing from us for over a year, and I was holding the evidence. The Golden Meadows Homeowners Association had been my responsibility since moving here 3 years ago. As a municipal security coordinator for Greystone, I understood the importance of financial transparency in community organizations. The monthly board meetings happened in Aurora Hall's living room on the second Tuesday of each month. Matthew Hall always brought his leather portfolio and read the treasurer's report in the same monotone voice. I'd never questioned the numbers before. Thursday morning, I collected the HOA financial filings from City Hall. Aurora Hall, the clerk, handed me a manila envelope containing 3 years of Form 990 submissions and quarterly financial statements. I spread them across my kitchen table next to the bank statements I'd retrieved from Matthew's recycling. The discrepancies were immediate and systematic. According to the city filings, our reserve fund maintained a steady balance of $186,000. The actual bank statements showed a current balance of $163,600, a difference of $22,400. Exactly 18 monthly withdrawals of $1,244 each, plus accumulated interest. I cross-referenced the withdrawal dates with our HOA meeting minutes. Every theft occurred 3 days after Matthew presented his treasurer's report. Every withdrawal happened on a Friday afternoon when most residents were at work. Every authorization bore only his signature, despite requiring dual approval under Minnesota Statute 515B.3 to 116. The wire transfer destination account belonged to Northfield Community Bank. I called their fraud department and spoke with investigator Aurora Hall. She confirmed that account 7,439 was registered to Matthew Hall, opened 18 months ago, with an initial deposit of $1,244. My phone buzzed with a text from Matthew. Charles, can you review the new security camera proposal? Board meeting tonight. I stared at the message. He was asking me to evaluate security measures while systematically stealing from the community I was supposed to protect. The irony felt deliberate. That evening I sat in Aurora Hall's living room with 5 other board members. Matthew presented his treasurer's report with the same calm confidence he'd shown for months. Reserve fund balance, $186,000, no unusual expenses. No concerns to report. I waited until he finished. Matthew, I need clarification on the reserve fund withdrawals. His pen stopped moving across his notepad. What withdrawals? The monthly transfers, $1,244 each. 18 consecutive months. The room went quiet. Aurora Hall, our secretary, looked between us with confusion. I don't have any record of reserve fund withdrawals in the meeting minutes. Matthew's face remained neutral, but his left hand started tapping against his portfolio. Charles, I think there might be some confusion about account reconciliation procedures. I pulled out my phone and showed the photographed bank statements. These are from Greystone Community Bank, account ending in 2847, your signature on every authorization. The tapping stopped. Those are confidential financial documents, Matthew said. How did you obtain them? They were in your recycling bin, mixed with your personal mail. Aurora Hall leaned forward to examine the photos. Her expression shifted from confusion to alarm. Matthew, these withdrawals aren't reflected in any of our official records. There's been a clerical error, Matthew said. I'll contact the bank tomorrow to resolve the discrepancy. I opened my laptop and pulled up the Minnesota Common Interest Ownership Act. Section 515B.3 to 116 requires dual authorization for any withdrawal exceeding $2,500 from reserve accounts. Every one of these transactions violates state law. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Matthew closed his portfolio and stood up. I think we should table this discussion until I can provide proper documentation. Sit down, Aurora Hall said. Her voice carried an authority I'd never heard before. We're not tabling anything until you explain where our money went. Matthew remained standing. I don't appreciate being ambushed with accusations based on illegally obtained documents. The documents were in your trash, I said. That makes them public record under Minnesota Statute 13.37. He looked toward the door, then back at the 6 faces staring at him. The calculation was visible in his expression. Fight or flight, deny or confess, continue the lie or cut his losses. The transfers were temporary, he said finally. A short-term loan to cover personal expenses. I planned to return the money before anyone noticed. Aurora Hall's pen was moving rapidly across her notepad. How much total? $22,400. The number hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Plus interest, I added. At current rates, you owe the association approximately $23,100. Matthew's shoulders sagged. I can have the money transferred back by Monday. That's not how this works, Aurora Hall said. We're filing a police report tonight. This is embezzlement. It was a loan, Matthew protested. I have every intention of paying it back. Unauthorized loans from HOA reserve funds constitute theft under Minnesota Criminal Code 609.52, I said. The intent to repay doesn't change the legal classification. Matthew looked around the room one more time. No allies, no escape routes. No plausible explanations remaining. I need to walk my dogs, he said. He left through Aurora Hall's front door without another word. Through the window, I watched him cross the street to his house. The porch light illuminated his face as he fumbled with his keys. Even from 50 yards away, I could see his hands shaking. Aurora Hall was already dialing 911. The betrayal was complete, but the consequences were just beginning. The Greystone police arrived at 9:47 p.m. Officer Jennifer Martinez took our statements while her partner photographed the financial documents spread across Aurora Hall's dining table. The paper trail looked damning under the harsh LED lights. "We'll need the original bank statements," Officer Martinez said. "These copies are helpful, but the prosecutor will want authenticated records." Aurora Hall nodded. "I can request them from First National tomorrow morning." "What about the HOA's insurance policy?" the officer asked. "Most associations carry fidelity bonds for exactly this situation." I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. I work with state auditors to investigate large-scale HOA fraud, and I depended on them for guidance on insurance claims. Let me call Detective Quinn Robinson from the Business Bureau. He handles financial crimes involving community associations. Detective Robinson answered on the second ring. His voice was gravelly, tired. "Garcia, it's almost 10 o'clock. We have an embezzlement case in Golden Meadows. HOA treasurer stole $22,400 from reserve funds. Local police are here taking statements." "Matthew Hall?" Robinson asked immediately. The question caught me off guard. "You know him?" "We've been watching him for 6 months. 3 other associations in Hennepin County filed complaints. Similar pattern: unauthorized transfers, falsified records, promises to repay." Aurora Hall was listening to my side of the conversation. Her eyes widened when she heard Robinson's words. "He's done this before?" I asked. "Maple Ridge Townhomes lost $31,000. Sunset Hills Condominiums lost $18,500. Both cases are still pending prosecution. Your evidence might be the final piece we need." Officer Martinez gestured for my phone. I handed it over and watched her coordinate with Robinson. Within minutes, they'd arranged for a financial crime specialist to arrive in the morning. The next 3 days blurred together in a sequence of meetings, paperwork, and recorded phone calls. Detective Robinson arrived Tuesday morning with a briefcase full of documents and a digital recorder that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. "We need Matthew to admit the theft on tape," Robinson explained. "His lawyer will claim the transfers were authorized if we don't have clear evidence of intent." Aurora Hall had called an emergency HOA board meeting for Wednesday evening. All 5 board members would be present, plus myself as the security coordinator who discovered the theft. The plan was simple: confront Matthew with the evidence and record his response. "What if he doesn't show up?" Aurora asked. "He'll show," Robinson said. "His lawyer probably told him to attend and say nothing. But people like Matthew can't resist explaining themselves. They need to be seen as reasonable." Wednesday arrived gray and cold. November in Minnesota felt like a preview of winter's intentions. I spent the afternoon reviewing the evidence one more time: bank statements, transfer records, falsified board minutes, and the original reserve fund reports that showed the true balance. The meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. at the community center on Maple Grove Drive. I arrived early and helped Aurora Hall arrange the tables in a conference setup. Detective Robinson positioned himself in the back corner with a clear view of Matthew's usual seat. Matthew walked in at exactly 7 p.m. with a man in an expensive suit. The lawyer introduced himself as David Chen from Chen & Associates. He placed a leather portfolio on the table and surveyed the room like he was calculating billable hours. "My client is here voluntarily," Chen announced. "He's prepared to discuss a repayment plan for the temporary loans from the reserve fund." "They weren't loans," Aurora Hall said. "They were unauthorized transfers, theft." Chen opened his portfolio and removed a single sheet of paper. "My client has prepared a promissory note for $23,100, payable over 12 months at 4.5% interest. "The interest rate is irrelevant," I said. "Minnesota Statute 317.735 requires board approval for any expenditure over $500. These transfers violated state law." Matthew finally spoke. "I had verbal approval from the previous board president." "Harold Morrison?" Aurora Hall asked. "He moved to Florida 8 months ago." "The approval was given before he moved." I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Harold Morrison's voice filled the room. I never authorized any transfers from the reserve fund. Matthew never asked for permission to move that money. Chen's pen stopped moving. Matthew's face went pale. When did you record that? Chen asked. Yesterday afternoon, I said. Mr. Morrison was very cooperative when I explained the situation. Detective Robinson stood up from his corner position. Matthew Hall, you're under arrest for theft by swindle under Minnesota Criminal Code 609.52. The handcuffs clicked with a sound like breaking twigs. Chen was already reaching for his phone. Don't say anything, Matthew. Not a word. But Matthew was looking at the faces around the table. Aurora Hall, the other board members, me. People who'd trusted him for 2 years while he systematically stole from the community fund. I needed the money for my mother's medical bills, he said quietly. Insurance wouldn't cover the experimental treatment. Chen grabbed his arm. Stop talking. She's dying, Matthew continued. The doctors in Rochester said this was her only chance. Matthew, please, Chen said. I was going to pay it back. Every penny. I just needed more time. Detective Robinson was reading him his rights, but Matthew kept talking. The words poured out like water through a broken dam. 2 years of financial pressure. Medical bills that exceeded his salary. The temptation of easy access to HOA funds. The rationalization that it was temporary. I never meant to hurt anyone, he said as Robinson led him toward the door. Aurora Hall was writing furiously in her notebook. Every word would be part of the official record. The community center felt hollow after they left. 5 board members and myself, sitting around a table covered with evidence of betrayal. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like insects. What happens to the money? Someone asked. The fidelity bond will cover the loss, I said. The insurance company will pursue restitution from Matthew separately. And the criminal case? Detective Robinson says it's solid. 3 similar cases, recorded confession, clear paper trail. Matthew will probably plead guilty to avoid trial. Aurora Hall closed her notebook. We need new financial controls, dual signatures on all checks, monthly bank reconciliations, independent audits. I nodded. I'll draft a proposal for the next board meeting. We locked up the community center and walked to our cars in silence. The streetlights cast long shadows across the empty parking lot. Somewhere in the distance, a dog was barking. Matthew's house was dark when I drove past. No porch light. No movement behind the curtains. Just an empty driveway where his car used to park. The betrayal was exposed, but the healing would take much longer. 8 months later, I stood in my kitchen making coffee and watching the sunrise through clean windows. The view hadn't changed, but everything felt different now. Matthew Hall's house had sold in March. A young family from Minneapolis bought it. They had twin daughters who rode bicycles in the driveway where Matthew used to park his Honda. The new owners painted the front door blue and planted tulips along the walkway. The Golden Meadows HOA had recovered completely. The fidelity bond paid out within 60 days. Matthew pleaded guilty to 3 counts of theft and received 18 months in county jail plus restitution. His attorney negotiated work release so he could continue paying back the community. Aurora Hall became our new treasurer. She implemented dual signature requirements and monthly reconciliation procedures. Every financial transaction now required board approval and documentation. The new system was bulletproof. Detective Robinson closed the case in February. She told me similar HOA fraud schemes were increasing statewide. Property management companies were hiring security coordinators specifically to prevent financial crimes. My experience with the investigation had become valuable expertise. I work with state auditors to investigate large-scale HOA fraud, and I depended on them to help me understand the broader patterns. The Minnesota Department of Commerce created a task force to examine HOA financial oversight. They asked me to serve as a community representative. The consulting work kept me busy. I traveled to suburbs across the Twin Cities, reviewing financial records and training board members. Each case taught me something new about human nature and institutional vulnerability. My own neighborhood had healed. The morning dog walkers returned to their normal routines. Property values stabilized. New residents moved in without knowing about the scandal. Life continued with the quiet persistence of suburban normalcy. Chen Martinez and I became friends. We met for coffee every few weeks to discuss HOA business and neighborhood gossip. He never mentioned the investigation unless I brought it up first. Some wounds needed time to close properly. The community center hosted its annual summer picnic in July. Families gathered on the lawn with folding chairs and coolers full of sandwiches. Children played on the playground while adults discussed lawn care and vacation plans. The conversation was light and easy. I watched from the pavilion, remembering the night we confronted Matthew in this same building, the fluorescent lights and scattered documents, the weight of betrayal settling over everything like dust. But that memory felt distant now, manageable. The community had survived and grown stronger. Trust could be rebuilt with proper systems and careful attention. The sun was fully up now, casting golden light across the kitchen counter. I finished my coffee and checked my phone for messages. Another HOA in Bloomington needed help with their financial audit. The work continued. Outside, a woman walked past with 5 dogs on leashes. She waved through the window and smiled. I waved back, feeling nothing but neighborly goodwill. It was finally over, and the silence felt earned.